The galaxy thought it could contain humanity, control them, ignore them. But when Earth struck back, it wasn't subtle and it wasn't negotiable. Overnight, every treaty, every fragile alliance, every calculated peace crumbled to dust. The stars would never see diplomacy the same way again, because humanity had returned and the galaxy felt the weight of their wrath. The breaking point, the crystalline towers of the Interstellar Commerce Guild headquarters pierced the artificial atmosphere of Station Zenith like shards of broken promises. Commander Elena Vasquez stood before the viewing wall, watching distant ships dock and depart, each one carrying goods that flowed freely for some species, but remained eternally restricted for humanity. She had aged in these halls. 15 years of negotiations, treaties, and carefully worded compromises that always seemed to favor everyone except her people. The reflection staring back at her showed gray streaks in her black hair that had not been there when she first arrived, full of hope that humanity could find its place among the stars through diplomacy and patience. Behind her, the guild assembly chamber buzzed with alien voices. The Quellans chittered in their melodic language. The massive Kroner delegates communicated through deep vibrations that rattled the floor. The ethereal luminari floated in their containment spheres, their bioluminescent bodies pulsing with what Elena had learned to recognize as satisfaction. Today they were voting on trade resolution. 9 to 447. Elena had read the proposal 17 times. Searching for loopholes, finding none. The resolution would restrict human access to Class 3 medical compounds, advanced fusion technology, and rare earth alternatives. The justification was always the same. Humanity was too volatile, too aggressive, too dangerous to be trusted with such resources. High Mediator Threxus raised his six-fingered hand, calling for order. His Quellan features were unreadable to most humans, but Elena had learned his expressions over the years. Right now, he looked triumphant. "The vote is recorded," Threxus announced, his translator rendering his words into standard galactic language. Resolution 9 to 447 passes with 83% approval. Humanity's trade privileges are hereby amended as specified. This session is concluded. Elena said nothing. She had learned long ago that protests in this chamber accomplished nothing. She gathered her datapad and walked out with measured steps. Refusing to show the rage burning in her chest, her communication device vibrated as she reached the transit corridor. A message appeared, just 3 words in code that only a handful of humans would understand. Mars colony. Emergency. 20 hours later, Elena stood in the medical ward of Mars Colony 7, watching doctors work frantically to save children who should not be dying. The medicine they needed had been cleared for shipment 3 weeks ago. Then Resolution 9 to 447 passed in preliminary voting, and the shipment was held at a guild inspection station. By the time it was released, it would be too late for 12-year-old Michael Okafor and 8-year-old Sarah Chun. Elena held Michael's hand as his mother wept. The boy's breathing was shallow, his skin pale. A simple treatment would have saved him, a treatment that cost almost nothing to produce, but which humanity was no longer permitted to manufacture or import without months of guild approval processes. Michael died at 0342 hours. Sarah followed at 0507 hours. Elena stayed with both families until the end. Bearing witness to what the galaxy's laws had done, she took the next transport to Luna Station, traveling under a false identity. The moon's far side housed thousands of workers in mining operations. But deep beneath the surface, in tunnels the guild had never properly surveyed, existed something else entirely. The elevator descended for 11 minutes, passing through multiple security checkpoints that scanned her genetic markers, retinal patterns, and neural signature. Finally, the doors opened into a vast chamber carved from lunar rock. 47 people waited around a circular table. These were the shadow leaders of humanity, representatives from every major colony and government. Military commanders, scientists, intelligence operatives, and politicians who had spent nearly 2 decades preparing for a moment they hoped would never come. Admiral James Okoye spoke first. His Nigerian accent was thick with barely controlled fury. They killed children today. We all saw the reports. How much longer do we wait? We wait until we are ready, answered General Yuki Tanaka from her position across the table. Emotion cannot drive this decision. We have been ready for 3 years, said Dr. Amara Okonkwo, her fingers dancing across a holographic display. Every system is operational. Every team is in position. Every contingency has been planned for. Elena took her seat at the table. All eyes turned to her. As the human most familiar with guild operations, her assessment carried weight. The guild believes we are broken, she said quietly. They believe today's vote will force us to accept even harsher terms. They believe we have no choice but to comply. She paused, meeting each person's gaze. They're wrong on all counts? She activated her data pad, projecting images into the center of the table. Ships appeared, stations, colonies, all marked with coordinates the guild had never recorded. For 18 years we have built in secret. We claimed mineral rights to asteroids they considered worthless. We established research outposts in nebulas they thought too dangerous to explore. We created supply networks through neutral space they never bothered to map. While they watched our official colonies, we created a second civilization in the shadows. The images shifted, showing stockpiles of resources, manufacturing facilities, defensive installations. We now control 23 strategic locations across 4 sectors. Each location has been chosen for maximum impact on guild trade routes and supply chains. Each location can be secured with minimal force because we already occupy them. Captain Marcus Chin, commander of humanity's hidden defense fleet, leaned forward. The military analysis is clear. We can take and hold these positions. The guild has superior numbers, but we have superior positioning. They built their empire on the assumption that no one would challenge the system itself. Elena continued. More importantly, we have something they never expected. Evidence. For 15 years, I have documented every guild violation of their own laws. Every bribe, every cover-up, every crime they committed while claiming to represent justice and order. We have testimony from dozens of species who suffered under guild exploitation. We have financial records showing corruption reaching the highest levels. We have proof that the guild is not the benevolent organization it pretends to be. Dr. Okonkwo added her piece. And we have technological advantages they do not know about. Our quantum communication network operates on principles they have not discovered. We can coordinate across thousands of light years in real time. They still rely on relay stations we can shut down. The silence in the room was heavy with the weight of the decision before them. General Tanaka spoke carefully. If we do this, there is no going back. The guild will respond with everything they have. Other species will be forced to choose sides. The galaxy as we know it will change forever. The galaxy as we know it is built on oppression, Elena replied. Species like humanity are kept in cages made of laws designed to prevent us from ever becoming equals. We can accept that cage, or we can break it. But if we break it, we must be prepared to offer something better in its place. She pulled up another document. The Equality Accords, a framework for a new galactic organization built on genuine representation, transparent governance, and laws that apply equally to all species. We are not seeking to dominate. We are seeking to liberate not just ourselves, but every species that has suffered under the current system. Admiral Okoi looked around the table. We all know people who died because of guild restrictions. We all know families torn apart by their quotas and fees. We all know the potential humanity has been denied. The question is simple. Do we act, or do we accept our place? The vote was unanimous. Elena input a code into her communication device. Across human space, on hidden stations and secret colonies, commanders received a simple message. Protocol Horizon is active. Execute in 72 hours. She looked at the faces around the table, seeing fear and determination in equal measure. We spent 18 years preparing for this moment. Now we show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. Not through destruction, but through precision. Not through conquest, but through liberation. We do not just strike back. We strike with purpose. The chamber emptied slowly as each leader returned to their posts. Elena remained, staring at the holographic display showing the 23 target locations scattered across the stars. In 72 hours. The galaxy would learn that humanity had never been contained. They had simply been waiting, planning, and preparing. The guild had built their empire on the assumption that the oppressed would never unite, never organize, never dare to challenge the established order. They were about to discover how catastrophically wrong they had been. The coordinated strike, the countdown reached 0 across 23 locations simultaneously. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, a ship that officially did not exist, watching the Theta Junction materialize on his view screen. The massive structure hung in space like a geometric flower, its 12 arms extending outward to form hyperspace gates that connected 4 major sectors of guild-controlled territory, 70% of all medical supplies, technology shipments, and luxury goods passed through Theta Junction. It was the beating heart of guild commerce, and in approximately 8 minutes, it would belong to humanity. All teams report ready status, his tactical officer announced. Lieutenant Sarah Reeves had trained for this moment for 6 years, running simulations until every movement became instinct. Marcus checked his chronometer. Across the galaxy, 22 other operations were beginning at this exact moment. Timing was everything. If even one location failed to properly, the guild would have time to respond. Initiate Phase 1, Marcus ordered. The Defiant Dawn and her sister ships remained cloaked, invisible to the junction's sensors thanks to technology humanity had developed in secret, laboratories hidden in the Helix Nebula. Instead, the first move came from within, inside Theta Junction's control center. Engineer David Park looked at his console with practiced calm. He had worked at this station for 4 years, maintaining systems, filing reports, being the perfect guild employee. The Quellans who supervised him never suspected that his real purpose was far different. Around the station, 37 other humans moved into position. Some were technicians like David, others were dock workers, cargo handlers, and maintenance crew. All of them had been carefully placed over years of patient infiltration. David's console chimed with an incoming priority message that appeared to be from guild headquarters. It was actually from Dr. Mara Okonkwo, transmitted through humanity's quantum network. The message contained a single word, now. His fingers moved across the controls, executing commands he had memorized months ago. He locked down the station's defensive systems with authorization codes that appeared legitimate but would take hours to override. He rerouted power from weapons arrays to life support, making it impossible to fire on approaching ships without killing everyone aboard. Across the station, his fellow operatives executed their own assignments. Airlock sealed. Communication arrays went into maintenance mode. Automated defense drones received false data, showing empty space where human ships actually approached. By the time the Quellan station commander realized something was wrong. It was already too late. The Defiant Dawn decloaked 300 meters from the primary docking port, accompanied by 8 frigates and 4 support vessels. Marcus opened the channel to the station. Theta Junction, this is Captain Marcus Chun of the Human Liberation Fleet. Your defensive systems are offline. Your communications are restricted. You have 2 options. Surrender the station peacefully, or we will board and take it by force. You have 5 minutes to decide. The station commander, a Quellan named Vextrus, appeared on the view screen. His facial membranes flushed with colors that Marcus's translator indicated meant shock and fury. This is an act of war. The guild will destroy you for this. The guild has been at war with humanity for 30 years, Marcus replied calmly. They simply called it diplomacy. Check your legal database, Commander. The Theta Junction was built in unclaimed neutral space. The guild never filed proper territorial claims. Under galactic law, we have as much right to occupy this location as you do. That is a technicality. Then you understand how humanity has felt for 3 decades, bound by technicalities that always favored everyone except us. 4 minutes, Commander. Vex just disappeared from the screen. Marcus watched the tactical display showing the station's interior. His people had done their jobs perfectly. The station was paralyzed. 3 minutes later, Vextrus returned. We surrender. But this will not stand. The guild has thousands of ships. Yes, they do, Marcus agreed. But they cannot be everywhere at once. And right now, they have bigger problems than Theta Junction. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were unfolding. At the Serpent's Eye Relay Network, Commander Liu Fang accepted the surrender of 3 communication hubs that controlled data flow for 18 sectors. At the Forge World's asteroid belt, Colonel Amanda Foster secured mining facilities that produce 60% of the rare minerals used in advanced manufacturing. Every target had been chosen with precision. Humanity was not striking at military bases or population centers. They were taking control of infrastructure, the unglamorous but critical systems that made galactic civilization function on Earth. In a command center deep beneath the Atacama Desert, Dr. Amara Okonkwo monitored all 23 operations simultaneously. Her quantum communication network allowed real-time coordination across impossible distances. The guild still used relay stations that introduced delays. Humanity's advantage was measured in seconds, but in military operations, seconds meant everything. Theta Junction secured. 1 display confirmed. Serpent's Eye Network secured. Another reported. 1 by 1, green confirmation lights appeared. 20 operations successful. 21. 20-2. The 23rd operation. At a fuel depot near guild headquarters, encountered complications. The station commander had attempted to destroy the facility rather than surrender. Human forces had been forced to board under fire. 3 soldiers died securing the depot, but they prevented its destruction. Amara allowed herself 1 moment of grief for those 3 lives, then returned to her work. The hardest part was just beginning. She opened a channel that broadcast on every frequency used by guild communications. Her image would appear on screens across 1,000 worlds, interrupting entertainment, news, and official broadcasts. People of the galaxy, my name is Dr. Amara Okonkwo. I am a human scientist, and I am speaking to you because your leaders have left us no choice. For 30 years, humanity has attempted to exist peacefully within the Interstellar Commerce Guild. We have signed treaties that restricted our growth, accepted taxes that no other species pays, and watched our people die from preventable causes because the guild deemed us unworthy of equal treatment. Her image was replaced by documents, thousands of pages scrolling past. What you are seeing is evidence. Evidence of guild corruption, of laws applied unfairly, of species exploited and destroyed. The Valar people, extinct 20 years ago, did not die from natural causes. They were eliminated because they refused to surrender mining rights to guild corporations. The Denari plague, which killed millions, had a cure that guild pharmaceutical companies suppressed to maintain profits. The peaceful Helios colonies were destroyed in what was called a peacekeeping operation, but was actually corporate-sponsored genocide. The documents were replaced by her face again. Humanity has taken control of 23 strategic locations across guild space. We did this not to conquer, but to force change. These locations were built in neutral space using resources we gathered legally. We will hold them until the guild agrees to honest negotiation. Negotiation that treats all species as equals. The broadcast shifted to show Commander Elena Vasquez standing in what was recognizable as the guild assembly chamber. Elena's voice was steady and firm. I am Commander Elena Vasquez. I have spent 15 years working within the guild system. I believe that patience and diplomacy would eventually lead to fairness. I was wrong. The guild does not want partners. It wants subjects. Yesterday, children died on Mars colony because medicine was delayed by bureaucratic cruelty. Today, humanity says enough. She held up a data crystal. This contains evidence of crimes committed by guild leadership, bribery, murder, theft, and systematic oppression of dozens of species. We are releasing this information to all public networks. The galaxy deserves to know what kind of organization truly governs them. The broadcast ended, but the data dump had already begun. Across the galaxy, servers received massive information packages. News organizations found detailed evidence of corruption. Independent investigators discovered documentation of crimes. Species that had always suspected they were being exploited now had proof. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. On Quellen Prime, protests erupted outside government buildings. The Kroner Confederacy announced they were suspending all cooperation with the Guild pending an investigation. The Luminary Collective, always the most law-focused species, declared that the evidence presented serious questions about Guild legitimacy. The Zephrani Empire, the Guild's most powerful military ally, convened an emergency session of their High Council. Ambassador Kirith, a Zephrani warrior diplomat, reviewed the evidence personally. When she reached the files about her people's sacred moon, destroyed 40 years ago in what was officially called an unfortunate accident, but was actually deliberate demolition to access rare crystals beneath the surface. Her decision was made. The Zephrani Empire withdrew all military support from the Guild, effective immediately. In his office on Station Zenith, High Mediator Threxus watched his authority crumbling in real time. Species were demanding answers. Trade routes were disrupted. Communication networks were in chaos. And somewhere out there, humanity held positions that would take months to reclaim. If they could be reclaimed at all, he opened a secure channel to his military commanders. Assemble a fleet. I want those human positions destroyed. His chief military advisor, a massive Kroner general, shook his head slowly. We cannot. Our forces are scattered across the galaxy. The humans chose their targets perfectly. To assault even one of those positions would require pulling ships from defense of our core worlds. And the Zephrani withdrawal just cost us 40% of our heavy combat vessels. Then what do you suggest? Threxus demanded. I suggest, the general said carefully, that we consider the possibility that the humans have outmaneuvered us. They did not start a war they could not win. They started a negotiation from a position of strength. On the Defiant Dawn, Marcus Chun received casualty reports from all operations. 14 humans dead, 23 wounded. On the enemy side, 6 casualties were. Station commanders had chosen to fight rather than surrender. The cost was far lower than projections had suggested. Humanity had proven something important. They could execute complex military operations with precision and restraint. They were not the savage warmongers the Guild had always claimed them to be. Marcus opened a channel to all human forces. All units, this is Chun. Phase 1 is complete. All positions are secured. Phase 2 begins now. Fortify your positions. Establish defensive perimeters and prepare for the long term. We are not raiders. We are occupiers. These positions are now human territory, and we will hold them for as long as necessary. He looked out at Theta Junction, now flying human flags alongside the colors of 3 other species who had chosen to join them immediately. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had just pushed it off balance. The question now was whether it would fall into chaos or find a new equilibrium. Everything depended on what happened next. The new galactic order. The Interstellar Commerce Guild fractured over the course of 6 days. Species that had remained silent for decades suddenly found their voices. The Viridian Compact, representing 12 smaller civilizations, issued a joint statement condemning the Guild's historical abuses. The Kroner Confederacy suspended all tribute payments pending an independent investigation. Even species that had benefited from Guild protection began questioning whether the cost was worth the corruption. High Mediator Threxus attempted to rally support for military action against humanity, but discovered that his authority existed only on paper. Without the Zephrani military, without unified support from member species, and with public opinion turning against the Guild faster than he could control, his threats rang hollow. On the 8th day after humanity's coordinated strike, Threxus received a communication that would change everything. It came not from human military commanders, but from Commander Elena Vasquez. Requesting a private meeting on neutral ground, they met on a small trading station in unclaimed space, accompanied only by minimal security. Threxus arrived expecting demands for surrender or threats of further action. Instead, Elena offered him something he had not anticipated, a way forward. "The guild is dying," Elena said without preamble. "You know it?" "I know it. Every species in the galaxy knows it. You can fight to preserve a corrupt system that is already collapsing, or you can help build something better." Threxus's facial membranes shifted to colors indicating skepticism. "You expect me to betray everything I've worked for?" "I expect you to recognize reality," Elena replied. "Humanity did not start this conflict. We finished it. For 30 years we tried working within your system. You responded by tightening restrictions until our children died from preventable diseases. You left us no choice." She activated a holographic display showing a document. "These are the Equality Accords, a framework for a new galactic organization based on genuine representation, transparent governance, and laws that apply equally to all species. No special privileges for founders. No exploitation of weaker civilizations. No more treating entire species as second-class citizens." Threxus studied the document, his trained eye catching the details. It was comprehensive, carefully structured, and surprisingly fair. This would require the guild to surrender all authority. "The guild no longer has authority," Elena stated flatly. 17 species have already withdrawn from guild membership. 23 more are considering it. You can dissolve the guild peacefully and transition to this new system, or you can watch it tear itself apart in civil conflicts. Those are your only options. And what guarantee do I have that humanity will not simply become the new oppressor?" Elena's expression was serious. "You have the same guarantee every species will have. Checks and balances written into the system itself. The Free Worlds Coalition will have a rotating leadership elected by member species for limited terms. No single civilization can dominate decision-making. And most importantly, we are sharing the evidence we collected. All of it. Every species will know what the guild did, which means every species will be watching to ensure the new system does not repeat those mistakes." She leaned forward. "You personally have a choice. You can be remembered as the leader who defended a corrupt system to its bitter end, or as the statesman who helped transition the galaxy to something better. I cannot promise you will escape judgment for your role in guild crimes, but cooperation will count in your favor." Threxus was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "I will need to consult with the remaining guild leadership." "You have 48 hours, Elena said. "After that, humanity begins phase 3 of our operation, and the damage to guild infrastructure will become permanent." She stood to leave, then paused. "For what it is worth, mediator, I do not believe you are evil. I believe you are part of a system that normalized oppression until it became invisible to those who benefited from it. The question is whether you can see it now." 36 hours later, Threxus made his announcement. The Interstellar Commerce Guild would dissolve voluntarily and transition to the proposed Free Worlds Coalition framework. It was the first time in galactic history that a major governing body had peacefully surrendered power. The transition was neither smooth nor simple. 3 guild loyalist factions attempted to maintain the old system, declaring themselves the legitimate government. Humanity responded not with military force, but with something more powerful. They opened their trade networks to any species that joined the new coalition. Within weeks, the economic incentive made the choice obvious. The loyalist factions collapsed as their members abandoned them. For better opportunities, Ambassador Kirith of the Zephrani Empire became one of humanity's strongest allies during the transition. Her species had military power that humanity lacked, while humanity had moral authority and evidence that made their position unassailable. Together, they formed the core of the new coalition's security structure. "Your people surprised me," Kirith told Elena during a negotiation session. "We expected conquerors. We found liberators who understand restraint. We learn from history, Elena replied. Earth had empires that conquered and oppressed. We saw what that created: resentment, rebellion, and eventual collapse. We chose a different path. The first session of the Free Worlds Coalition Assembly convened 3 months after humanity's initial strike. Representatives from 41 species gathered in a newly constructed station, built specifically to be neutral ground. The architecture incorporated elements from dozens of cultures. A physical representation of the coalition's founding principle, unity through diversity. Alina stood before the assembly, no longer a supplicant begging for fair treatment, but a founding member presenting humanity's vision for the future. We gather today not as victors and defeated, but as equals choosing to build something new. The old system claimed to serve all species while actually serving the powerful. We must ensure this new system truly represents everyone. She outlined the coalition structure: a representative assembly where every species had a voice, an elected executive council with rotating membership and limited terms, and independent judicial system with judges from multiple civilizations. Military forces would be decentralized, with each species maintaining its own defense, while contributing to a collective security force only for genuine emergencies. The proposal passed with near unanimous support. Even former guild loyalists recognized that the alternative was continued chaos. Captain Marcus Chen found himself in an unexpected role, training the first joint human-alien security force. He worked alongside Zephyrini warriors, Kroner strategists, and Luminari technical specialists, teaching them coordinated tactics while learning from their expertise. A year ago, some of you would have been shooting at me, he told a group of mixed species recruits. Today, we train together to protect trade routes from pirates and ensure no species can threaten another. This is what the galaxy can become when we choose cooperation over domination. One of his students, a young Quellan named Thrix, approached after training. Captain Chun, may I ask a personal question? Of course. How did your people maintain hope during 30 years of oppression? My species participated in restricting yours. I carry guilt for that. But you seem to hold no hatred. Marcus considered his answer carefully. Hatred would have destroyed us before it destroyed our enemies. We chose patience and preparation instead. And we remembered that individuals are not their governments. You, Thrix, did not create the policies that oppressed humanity. You inherited a system and believed what you were told. Now you are choosing to be part of something better. That is what matters. Dr. Amara Okonkwo's quantum communication network became the backbone of the new coalition's infrastructure. She worked with scientists from 17 species to improve and expand the technology. The Luminari contributed their understanding of exotic particles. The Kroner provided insights into power distribution. The Viridians offered biological computing techniques that increased efficiency by 40%. This is what we fought for, Amara told her research team, which now included more aliens than humans. Not to keep our advantages to ourselves, but to share them in a system where everyone benefits. Technology advances faster when we work together. 1 year after humanity's coordinated strike, Elena returned to Mars Colony 7. She visited the memorial garden where Michael Okafor and Sarah Chun were buried alongside others who had died from preventable causes during the Guild era. She knelt before Michael's marker, placing fresh flowers. We did it, she said quietly. The medicine that could have saved you is now available to everyone. No child will die the way you did, not if we can prevent it. Your death mattered. It became the reason we could not accept the old system anymore. A woman approached, recognizing Elena. It was Michael's mother, Amaka Okafor. Commander Vasquez. Elena stood, uncertain how she would be received. She had been the negotiator who failed to prevent the treaty that killed this woman's son. Amaka embraced her. Thank you. My son's death was not meaningless. You made sure of that? Elena felt tears she had held back for a year finally fall. I am sorry I could not save him. You saved millions of others, Amaka replied. Children across the galaxy, who will never know how close they came to the same fate. That is Michael's legacy now. That is enough. The Free Worlds Coalition was not perfect. Disputes arose regularly. Some species struggled to accept genuine equality after centuries of either domination or subjugation. Trade disagreements, border conflicts, and cultural misunderstandings created constant challenges. But the system had something the guild never possessed: legitimacy. When problems arose, they were addressed through transparent processes where all voices mattered. When mistakes were made, they were acknowledged and corrected rather than covered up. 5 years after the strike, Ambassador Kirith stood with Elena on the observation deck of Coalition headquarters, watching ships from 100 worlds dock and depart peacefully. "Your species changed the galaxy," Kirith said. "I wonder if you understand the magnitude of what you accomplished." "We did not do it alone," Elena replied. "We provided the spark, but dozens of species chose to build the fire. The Zephyr military support, the Kroner economic networks, the Luminari legal framework, the Viridian medical knowledge, all of it together created what we have now. Still, it was humanity that had the courage to act when everyone else accepted oppression as normal." Elena smiled. "Perhaps. Or perhaps we were simply desperate enough to try." Sometimes the greatest changes come not from the strongest or the wisest, but from those who have nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Captain Marcus Chun, now promoted to admiral, commanded the Coalition's collective security force. His fleet included vessels from 23 species. Crews that once might have fought each other, now working together to protect the trade routes and maintain peace. When pirate attacks threatened a Quellan colony, it was a mixed human Zephyrini Kroner task force that responded. When a natural disaster devastated a Viridian world, ships from across the Coalition brought aid without asking for payment or political concessions. This was the galaxy humanity had fought for, imperfect. Messy, but genuinely trying to be fair, Dr. Amara Okonkwo received the Coalition's highest scientific honor for her quantum communication breakthrough. At the ceremony, she dedicated the award to all the human scientists who had worked in secret facilities, advancing knowledge while the galaxy thought humanity was contained and controlled. "We proved that oppression cannot stop innovation," she said. "We proved that patience and planning can defeat overwhelming power. But most importantly, we proved that the future does not belong to those who dominate, but to those who cooperate." Elena Vasquez eventually retired from diplomatic service, but she never truly left the work. She taught at the Coalition's new diplomatic academy, training the next generation of negotiators from dozens of species. Her students learned not just about treaties and protocols, but about the moral courage required to stand against injustice even when the cost seems unbearable. "The galaxy changed because people made choices," she told her students. "People like you who will face decisions about whether to accept systems that seem too powerful to challenge. Remember, every empire that ever fell seemed eternal until the moment didn't. Every system of oppression seemed inevitable until people decided it was not. You have the power to choose what kind of galaxy you want to live in. Use that power wisely." On Earth, in the same lunar facility where humanity's leaders had made the decision to activate Protocol Horizon, a new memorial stood. It listed the names of every human who had died during the operation and the decades of preparation before it. 14 names from the coordinated strike itself, hundreds more who had died while building secret colonies, developing hidden technologies, and gathering evidence of guild crimes. The inscription beneath the names read, "They prepared the future we inherit." May we prove worthy of their sacrifice? The galaxy had changed. Treaties that once restricted entire species based on fear and prejudice were replaced by agreements built on mutual respect. Trade that once flowed only to the benefit of the powerful now created opportunity for all. Laws that once applied selectively were now enforced equally. Humanity had struck back not with vengeance but with vision. They had not sought to replace one empire with another, but to create a system where empires became impossible They had proven that patience, preparation, and moral courage could achieve what brute force never could. The galaxy would never be perfect, but it was, for the first time in centuries, genuinely trying to be fair. And that made all the difference.